Today at approximately 7:40 a.m. In the 4200 block of St. Antoine, our victim was getting into her vehicle. Our victim is Miss Patrice Wilson. She's a black female, 29, and our suspect approached. Our suspect was last seen wearing a blonde wig. He then got inside the vehicle, forced her over, and fled with her inside. We're looking for a black 2020 Lincoln Nautilus. Our suspect is Mr. Jameer Miller. He's a black male, 36.
This story comes out of Detroit, Michigan. Detroit is a large city in an urban area of Michigan, and here are a few things about Detroit that you may not know. Detroit's Belle Island Park is the largest urban island park in the country. This park is nearly 1,000 acres large, and it opened in the 1880s as Detroit's first city park. Belle Island was in fact designed by Frederick Olmsted. He's the architect that designed the famous New York Central Park. Detroit has also been the home for four major pro sports: the Pistons NBA, the Lions NFL, the Red Wings NHL, and the Tigers MLB. Patrice Wilson, 29 years old, was born August 1st, 1993. Patrice was loved dearly by her family and friends. She was an outgoing young lady, very smart. She attended nursing school and received her degree as an RN. She enjoyed working with the public. She enjoyed helping others. And she enjoyed just, being a part of the healthcare system where she can see her hard work being put to good use by helping these people. She also was talking about going back to school to be an anesthesiologist. She was the mother of one child, a little boy that she loved dearly and she cherished. And he was the apple of her eye and the most important person in her life. She was a beautiful young lady that had a sweet spirit and a sweet smile.
Patrice, I'm thankful for my friends, my family, my son with so much personality. I'm thankful for my health and my career, and I'm able to do anything I want.
36-year-old Jameer Miller and Patrice were dating on and off throughout the years, for several years, and they had an on and off again relationship. Patrice had decided that she wanted to be single, and for whatever reason, she decided to break off the relationship. But when they first met, they had a lot in common. They both were single parents with two sons. He had a son and she had a son. And Jameer had experienced a tragedy. In 2011, 24-year-old Bianca Green went missing. She has not been seen or heard from since. Her family suspect that there is foul play involved. Jameer went public asking for information to bring his son's mother home.
It's hard being a single father, and it's hard for me to even tell him what's going on with her. And then his birthday coming up April 18th, and it's going to be the second one she went around.
When Jameer Miller and Patrice Wilson's relationship ended several years ago, Miller decided that he wasn't done with the relationship. He continued to try and pursue Miss Wilson, and she just didn't want to be bothered with him. He would come by her home often, and he'd leave flowers and other trinkets outside of her door. No matter how hard she tried to get across that she was serious and she didn't want the relationship back, he continued to pursue her in a stalking behavior, basically, because he was relentless and refused to give up on trying to win her back. You cannot win back a person's heart who no longer has a desire to be with you. You need to give up and walk away. And Mr. Miller somehow didn't understand that, or he just didn't care. Authorities revealed that Miller's a very violent person and he has a significant criminal past. This guy is not a nice guy. Miss Wilson's family also stated that although the two of them had dated for quite a while, that her daughter no longer had the desire to date this guy or be with him any longer. She says that her daughter had been trying to get away from Mr. Miller for quite a while. She says that he was toxic to her and her daughter knew it. In 2021, Miss Wilson recorded a video on her ringtone camera that went viral on TikTok. The video was not only creepy, but it was frightening and it was just weird.
Jameer, you breaking in my house? Like, are you serious? You breaking in my house, Jameer?
Why would I break in your house?
Why are you at my door with gloves on?
On Saturday, May 13th, 2023, around 7:40 a.m., Patrice Wilson had just ended her shift at the DMC Detroit Receiving Hospital. She was in a parking lot outside of the hospital walking towards her vehicle. When she approached her vehicle, an individual came from behind her with a gun. Witnesses state that when Miss Wilson entered her car, she was forced over into the passenger seat. The individual, who was wearing a blonde wig and brandishing a handgun, will later be identified as 36-year-old Jameer Miller. As Mr. Miller got into the driver's seat and drove away. The vehicle drove away. Witnesses stated that several gunshots could be heard. As the kidnapping was taking place, Miss Wilson was on the phone with a friend, and that friend can hear her screaming, and shortly after, the phone would go dead. An all-points bulletin was put out for Miss Wilson, and her vehicle was described as a black 2020 Lincoln Nautilus four-door vehicle. If you have any information, the police are asking that you contact them immediately. The Detroit Police Department held a press conference reaching out to the public and asking for assistance to bring Miss Wilson back home safely to her family.
Here are the facts as we know them thus far. At approximately 7:40 a.m. in the 4200 block of St. Antoine, Miss Wilson was kidnapped by a suspect identified as Jameer Miller. The suspect was wearing a wig, described as a blonde or red wig, trying to disguise his identity. Once notified, the Detroit Police Department acted immediately.
Wilson's mother reached out to the media and asked them to please assist police in bringing her daughter home safely.
She's a very good reasoner person, so maybe she's trying to reason with him and to talk him into letting her go. Back in 2003, I lost her son. He was riding his bike and he was 15 years old and a car hit him. I don't know today who did that. So, yeah, I'm dealing with a lot right now.
On Saturday, May 13th, shortly after 9 p.m., police would discover Miss Wilson's 2020 Lincoln Nautilus parked in the area of Haggerty and 9 Mile in Novi. Upon searching the vehicle, police would sadly discover Miss Wilson's body in the vehicle's trunk.
And she been trying to get for it. I've been told him a mother, her son cannot hold her and say Happy Mother's Day to her today.
Authorities stated that they knew Mr. Miller was a violent person, but he also had a history in domestic violence. On Sunday, May 13th, the man identified by police as Jameer Miller turned himself in to authorities. He claimed that he was feeling the pressure of the investigation. Miller had been on the run since Saturday morning when authorities identified him as the main suspect for the murder of Patrice Wilson. At the present time, Miller has not been charged with the murder of Miss Wilson, but he is being held on 14 counts of a previous crime that occurred on February 23rd of 2023.
After several search warrants were executed, the suspect, feeling the pressure of this investigation, due to all of the search warrants, all of the activities by those agencies that I just identified, the suspect negotiated his surrender via his lawyer, and he was taken into custody at the DDC at 2:15 p.m. On yesterday, and that's the Detroit Detention Center. She was dedicated to serving and helping others as a nurse and putting others before herself. Ms. Wilson has been described as cherished by her family and her friends, and as well as her coworkers. She's also a mother, obviously. She's a daughter, and for her to have her life taken away from her just before Mother's Day is absolutely heartbreaking.
During that crime, he was charged with 14 counts, and some of those counts included felony firearms. It includes weapons and ammunition possession by a felon. It also included controlled substance delivery and manufacture. They included cocaine and methamphetamines and other narcotics, over 50 grams. Authorities revealed that Miller has a long rap sheet, and some of those charges are gun charges, drug charges, assault, driving drunk, and eluding the police. Prosecutors are hoping that the guns and ammunition recovered from Miller's crime can help them to solve unsolved crimes that Miller may be involved with. Miller was arraigned on May 17th at 9 a.m. in court, and also a probable cause hearing was scheduled for May 30th. He is still in custody at the present time. When Miss Green's family realized that Miller was the main suspect in Miss Wilson's murder, their painful wounds were reopened. The families requesting authorities take another look at Jamir in relations to the disappearance of Bianca.
Giving a cry out to the nation because I need all the help that I can get in finding my daughter. Say, Mommy, we miss you.
Mommy, we miss you.
And we want you to come home.
And we want you to come home.
And we want God to bring you home.
And God to bring you home.
2011, the last day Bianca Green was seen. The 24-year-old mother was on the 15,000 block of Brant near Pennsylvania and Middle Belt in Romulus. Bianca Green was a college student with a 4-year-old son. She was expecting a new child when she vanished. Bianca's mother got a text from Bianca saying she was near Ohio and she would call her mom just as soon as she reached her destination. Lisa Green is insisting her daughter would never run away from her family and her own son.
Jamir, the grandson, say, "Ma, Daddy on TV." They was sitting in the living room, and he was watching TV, and he was on the news. We ain't never give up hope, but we was trying to give Jamir the benefit of the doubt.
Miller, he was questioned but never charged in Bianca's disappearance. Romulus police, who led that case, did not respond to our calls to see if the case will now be re-examined.
What do you hope comes out of this now that Jamir's in custody?
That we get some type of closure. She wouldn't have never left Jamir. That was her, like her Velcro. She wouldn't have never left her son.
This is terrible that it took the demise of Miss Wilson to reinvigorate this case with Miss Green, possibly letting them re-examine Mr. Miller and his alibi, possibly finding out if there's a link between Mr. Miller and Miss Green's disappearance. Authorities had already questioned Mr. Miller, so he was no longer a suspect. But now that this has happened to Miss Wilson, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of questions that need to be answered. Is Jamir Miller linked to the disappearance of Bianca Green? Her family stated that she was pregnant, she loved her son dearly, and she would never walk away from her family or her son. There are some eerie similarities between these two ladies. Is it a coincidence that these ladies have so much in common? Or was it deliberate on Mr. Miller's part? Both ladies were in their 20s. Miss Green was 24 and Miss Wilson was 29 years old. They both were single mothers that were determined to provide a good life for their sons. Miss Green was in college and she was working on getting her degree. Miss Wilson was a nurse. She strived for even greater accolades for herself. She openly talked about going back to school to further her education. So these women had a lot of ambition. Both of these ladies appeared to be boarding a train headed for success. And it appears that neither lady wanted to bring Mr. Miller along for the train ride. Control, anger, jealousy, and manipulation are 4 vices that can definitely damage a relationship. If those relationship issues are not corrected, they will ultimately, in the long run, destroy that relationship and end it. Besides the other similarities that these ladies appear to share, the biggest red flag that stands out for me was the fact that neither one of these ladies wished to continue a relationship with Mr. Miller.